Hi folks, I'm Dan Payne and this is Web Accessibility for Business Owners. In this video, I'll show you some of the tools developed to help people with disabilities not only use the web, but also interact with the world. They're called assistive technologies. Let's get started. Before I show you some examples of assistive technologies, which I usually just call AT, I want to talk about AT in a more general historical sense. When you think about it, technologies that assist us in our daily activities are everywhere, from eyeglasses to can openers to voice assistants like Alexa. Technologies make our lives better. In some cases, like my eyeglasses, these things really only assist with a disability. There's not much use for them otherwise. Other technologies enhance life for everyone, like a can opener. But for some, like voice assistants, though everyone can use and benefit from them, for people with disabilities, they can be life-changing. So when we're using the term assistive technology, we're usually talking about things and how they specifically help people with disabilities. Some of these technologies have been around for centuries. Roman general Marcus Sergius lost a hand in battle and is the first documented user of a prosthetic hand. This prosthetic toe was found on a mummy, buried 300 years BCE. By around 1000 AD, people were using reading stones to magnify text. And Louis Braille developed his code in 1824, nearly 200 years ago. So the need has always been around, but with such huge growth in computing power, advances in materials sciences, and increased manufacturing capability, breakthroughs have been coming just about every day. And with that expansion come economies of scale. With more production and variety come lower costs and more options. Some AT have now gotten to the point of being flat-out works of art, incredibly beautiful, yet functional. Now, the world of AT is enormous. When you consider daily living, environmental, vehicular, and recreational adaptations, there is so much out there. But this series is about web accessibility, so I'll narrow my focus here to things that help folks use the web. Screen readers are probably the most well-known of visual assistive technologies. They're simply apps that render content as speech. Most operating systems have screen reader apps built in, but there are a number of other products available, some commercially and some free and open source. Windows has had the Narrator app built in since Windows 2000 came out, but the greatest market share is held by the JAWS commercial screen reader. NVDA runs a close second to JAWS on Windows and is available for free. Mac users are pretty much limited to using the built-in VoiceOver app. VoiceOver is also built in on iOS devices, and Android devices come with the TalkBack screen reader app. Some users prefer one screen reader over the others, due to features or simply because they've gotten used to it. But no matter which they use to visit a website, they all expect the code for that site to comply with recognizable standards. Otherwise, it's all gibberish. Here's a quick little demo of what VoiceOver on Safari sounds like. Let's look at why alternative text is so necessary. Here we see the same image 3 times. As the screen reader hits the first one, there's no alt attribute, so the file name is read instead by default.
IMG_2258 JPG image.
Not very useful and kind of annoying. The next image has a simple alternative description, but it's still not very helpful.
Whale image.
Finally, we have a well-formed alternative text that describes the image in a way that provides the screen reader user with a roughly equivalent experience of the image in the context with its surrounding content.
A humpback whale breaching almost completely out of the ocean. A spray of water streaming from its underside image.
In this case, there's no surrounding content, so we describe the image as briefly and clearly as we can. Screen magnifier apps help people with low vision to enlarge portions of the screen to make it easier to read. Now, this can be tricky when you take into account that the user needs to also be able to interact with the page while using the magnifier, especially when you consider that many people with low vision are elderly and may also have motor impairments. Most modern operating systems come pre-packaged with Magnifier and other apps that help with both. Braille displays have little rounded pins that stick up to form Braille characters. Blind and deafblind users can then read the content of a page line by line. Under the hood, a Braille display simply translates the output of a screen reader into Braille that's then fed to the pin controller. Some have built-in keyboards, and on most you can connect an external keyboard. A deaf-blind user can then have face-to-face conversations. This is Haben Girma. She's a human rights lawyer, speaker, and author. She's also the first deaf-blind person to graduate from Harvard Law School. I wanted to mention her because I love this picture of her having a conversation with President Obama in the Oval Office using her Braille display. Optical character recognition, or OCR, is used to convert characters into text, usually by the use of a scanner. You may be familiar with this, as the technology has been around a while and is pretty widely used. What's important to understand is that once it's converted to text, not only does that text become searchable, it becomes audibly readable for things like screen readers. So some other visual AT may not need as much explanation. Things like high contrast keyboards, keyboard overlays, and tactile overlays for touch-sensitive screens. All are pretty self-explanatory in their usefulness for people with visual impairments. Hearing. There are a lot of assistive technologies that aid with hearing, but when it comes to the web, captioning, transcripts, and sign language are the most important for people with hearing impairments. Captions can be closed, meaning they're only visible if the user chooses to see them, or open, meaning they're part of the video and visible for everyone all the time. For video conferencing, services like Zoom include the ability to use auto-captioning if the meeting organizer enables it. Auto-captions are a good step forward, but their accuracy is sometimes limited. Zoom also allows you to designate an attendee as the source of captioning, so an interpreter can manually type in the captioning in real time. There's also a way to designate attendees as interpreters, not only for sign language, but for other languages as well. Transcripts of recorded content are helpful for everyone, especially for SEO purposes, because now the words spoken can be indexed by search engines. But they're especially helpful for deaf and deafblind users. Speech. Speech recognition apps like Dragon are mostly helpful for people with motor or learning disabilities. But like so much other AT, they're really helpful for everyone. They not only allow you to dictate text, they also can be used to operate controls. Mobility. There are many alternative input devices being used to help people with motor disabilities. Adaptive keyboards, like the Maltron Expanded Keyboard, have a large surface area, making them easier to use for people with muscle control impairments, like cerebral palsy. The raised metal keyguard helps the user avoid accidental keystrokes and typos. Single-handed keyboards come in left or right-handed layouts. Head pointers can be as simple as a stick, stylus, or object mounted to the head that allows the wearer to interact with a computer interface. Some devices use motion or eye tracking or even brain activity to manipulate controls. Single switch devices can be used for fairly advanced motor disabilities. SIP-PUF switches, foot switches, adaptive controls, and nerve or muscle signal switches can be used in control or input modes. While we're on the subject of AT, I do want to mention the annual Assistive Technology Conference that Cal State Northridge puts on every year. Since 1985, this conference has showcased advances in assistive technology and is a great way to interact with the technologies in person. The 2022 conference will be in March at Anaheim, California, and I really hope we can attend in person. I highly recommend it if you're interested in AT. So to conclude, assistive technologies are becoming more available every day, and in many cases they're helpful for everyone, not just people with disabilities. On the other hand, for people with disabilities, web-related AT can be life-changing. It gives them opportunities to work, shop, learn, socialize, organize, and so much more. But the bottom line is that some AT is only useful if websites are built in a way that this tech can recognize. Okay, so in the final video in this series, I'll discuss the practical side of web accessibility for business owners. What does the process look like? I'll also share some information that may put some money back in your pocket. Cheers!